Not exactly, and you do not have to give up the grill to stay on the safe side. The truth is that how you cook meat, not just what meat you choose, affects the cancer-related compounds that end up on your plate. So let me walk you through what actually forms on that hot grate, what the science really says, and the small changes that make a real difference. When you cook muscle meat at high temperature, and that means beef, pork, poultry, and even fish, you create compounds called heterocyclic amines, or HCAs. They form most readily when meat is cooked well done or when it picks up a heavy char. Alongside them are polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. Those come from the smoke itself. When fat drips down onto the flames, it flares up, and that smoke rises back to coat your food. So you have two different characters here. HCAs form inside the meat from the heat, and PAHs settle on the outside from the smoke. Now here is where I want to be honest with you about the evidence, because this is where a lot of headlines get loud and the nuance gets lost. In the lab, the evidence that HCAs and PAHs can damage DNA is genuinely strong. That part is clear. When we step out of the lab and look at large groups of people, the picture gets softer and more tangled. Population studies do link heavy intake of well-done, fried, and barbecued meats with a higher risk of colorectal, pancreatic, and prostate cancers. But the effect is modest, and it is hard to separate from something bigger sitting right next to it, which is a person's overall intake of red and processed meat. So the most accurate way to think about grilling is this. It is one adjustable risk factor among several. It is not a guaranteed danger, and it is not something to lose sleep over. It is a knob you can turn. And the good news is that you have several ways to turn it. Let me give you the practical moves. The first is to marinate your meat before it hits the grill. This is not just for flavor. Marinating has been shown to sharply reduce HCA formation, so it is one of the simplest and most effective things you can do. The second move is to pre-cook. You can start your meat in the oven or the microwave, and then finish it on the grill for that flavor and those grill marks. That shortens the time it spends over high heat, which is exactly the time when these compounds build up. The third move is to flip often. Turning the meat frequently keeps any one surface from getting too hot for too long, and that keeps HCA formation down. The fourth is to control your flare-ups, because those flare-ups are the PAH story in action. When you keep the flames from licking up and the fat from dripping into open fire, you cut down on that coating of smoke. And the fifth, once everything is cooked, is simply to trim off the burnt bits before you eat. Skip the char, but I want to leave you with the move that matters most, because it is bigger than any single technique. What you put on the grill matters even more than how you cook it. Vegetables, fruit, tofu, and fish produce far fewer of these compounds than well-done red or processed meat does. So, the single biggest upgrade you can make is not really about temperature or timing at all. It is about filling more of that grate with plants and with fish, and letting charred red meat become the occasional exception rather than the main event. When you do that, you are addressing the overall red and processed meat intake that the research keeps pointing back to, and you get all the flavor of the grill without leaning on the foods that carry the most concern. So let me bring this back to where we started. Does grilled or charred meat cause cancer? No, not in the simple, guaranteed way the question implies. It is one adjustable factor, backed by strong lab evidence and modest population signals, and you have real control over it. You can marinate, you can pre-cook and finish, you can flip often, you can tame the flare-ups, and you can trim the char. And most of all, you can grill more plants and more fish. Enjoy the grill. Just skip the char.